This Boyer-Schultz 6x12 surface grinder, forged in the late 1940s, still laps hardened steel to mirror perfection within a millionth of an inch after 7 decades of relentless shop abuse. A gleaming $75,000 modern counterpart chatters its linear rails apart, spitting wavy rejects after barely 3 years of production runs. What forgotten brutality in cast iron and human grit let the old machine conquer precision where silicon dreams now fail? The desperation that birthed the Boyar 6x12 was no mere market whim. It sprang from the furnace of World War II's aftermath, when America's arsenal of precision tooling had to rearm for the Cold War shadow looming over every factory floor. Europe lay in rubble, Japan was rising from ashes, and the U.S. faced a door-die mandate: outproduce the world in aircraft dies, tank shells, and missile components that demanded flatness held to millionths, or watch free enterprise crumble under Soviet steel. Tool and die shops from Detroit to Dayton churned out the molds for B-52 bombers and artillery fuses, where a single wavy surface on a stamping die could doom 1,000 shells to misfire on the proving grounds. Failure wasn't an option. It was treason by incompetence. Engineers at Boyar-Schultz, a scrappy Illinois outfit founded by Hungarian immigrant machinists who'd fled pogroms and wars, knew slip in flatness meant production halts, bankruptcies, and boys dying on distant fronts for faulty gear. They built for apocalypse survival, not quarterly profits. Now, the engineering, the raw, unyielding secret sauce that turned this beast into a legend. At its heart lay mass, a monolithic cast iron bed weighing over 2,000 pounds, poured from meionite metal, a high-damping alloy that ate vibrations like a black hole swallows light. No flimsy aluminum frames here. This iron absorbed harmonic chatter from the grinding wheels' 3,450 RPM scream, converting energy into inert heat rather than transmitting it to the workpiece. The spindle assembly crowned the machine's genius. Oversized, heavy-duty ball bearings double row. Angular contact types preloaded to eliminate axial play, sealed within a 100-pound cast iron quill housing board to 0.0001-inch tolerances. These bearings, rated for 10 million cycles, under 5,000 pounds of spun on shafts hardened to Rockwell 62, their preload springs compressing just enough to squash any whip or flutter, even as coolant floods hit 150 degrees Fahrenheit and swarf gums the races. But the true sorcery hid in the table weighs hand-scraped by artisans wielding Babbitt scrapers for weeks per machine. Each way, a 12-inch wide V-block and flat, bore thousands of microscopic oil pockets, etched by eye and feel to 10-micro-inch flatness. The 400-pound table, loaded with workpieces up to 500 pounds, glided not on rails but on a hydrostatic film of high-pressure way oil pumped at 200. See-through galleries drilled into the bed, creating zero stick slip, zero backlash. Inertia ruled. The table's mass resisted deflection under grinding loads, exceeding 1 ton per square inch, while the oil wedge, mere thousandths thick, sheared smoothly, holding geometric flatness across 6x12 inches to 0.000001 inches. Sensory proof. Clamp a mic on the table, mid-cut, vibrations damp to nothingness. The wheels bite, yielding a surface you could see your reflection in. Heat-treated tool steel, lapped cooler than a summer breeze. Modern grinders? They chase this with servo motors and feedback loops, but their lighter castings thin-walled gray iron or worse. Polymer composites ring like bells, every wheel hop echoing straight to the part. Men paid dearly to unleash this monster. Toolmakers, grizzled Poles, Italians, and farm boys turned machinists hunched over the 6x12 in sweat-soaked shops where summer temps hit 110 degrees amid the oil mist and aluminum oxide grit. No climate control. Just open loading docks and fans churning lung-blackening dust that carve silicosis into their X-rays by 40. Fingers danced inches from 8-inch diamond wheels, spinning fast enough to explode on a bad bind, sending shrapnel through cover glass rated for dynamite blasts. Amputations were badges. A table crash from a warped blank could shear digit cleaner than a guillotine, while coolant burns blistered forearms raw from wrist to elbow. The bends came from 12-hour shifts, cranking the hand wheel through heavy inertia, backs twisting under the downfeed lever's 50-pound pull, vertebrae cracking like dry twigs by retirement. Deafness sealed their fate. Wheel wine-piercing earplugs at 120 decibels, tinnitus, a lifelong yet they revered it. These operators, wiping hands on greasy aprons, before scraping their own ways, at shift's end, knowing one false flat doomed the war effort. Blood lubricated the oil pockets as surely as sweat quenched the iron's thirst. Fast forward 6 decades, and the Boyer Schultz endures where silicon fragility folds. Survivors hum in backroom shops from Cleveland to California, lapping dies for aerospace turbines that modern machines warp with every pass. Take the 2022 John Deere tractor fiasco. Software updates bricked $500,000. Combines farmers sidelined by remote kill switches chasing cybersecurity theater. Or the 2021 Florida condo collapse, reinforced concrete spalling from cheap epoxy anchors, vibrating loose over decades, while old swing stage grinders prepped those beams to millionths without a whimper. Why abandon the old way? Profit margins slimmer than a lawyer's conscience lighter, castings shave 40% off freight costs. Linear guide rails from Taiwan bolt-on for pennies versus weeks of hand-scraping. And plant obsolescence packs annual upgrades with proprietary software that demands $10,000 service calls when the app glitches. Safety theater pretends to care. OSHA-mandated enclosures hide the fragility. But they can't mask how Roland Gallimant rails plastic-wheeled carts on steel strip stratter underload, transmitting every spindle wobble directly to your $200 part, scrapping it wavy. Today, a handful soldier on. One anchors the National Tooling Museum in Rockford. Another powers boutique die shops crafting Formula One molds. The rest, lovingly restored by graybeards who curse CNC dashboards. We've traded eternity for convenience, brute mass for brittle code, and in doing so, forgotten that true progress isn't measured in gigahertz, but in millions held against time's grindstone. Consider the 1952 Boyar-Schultz 6x12 tucked into a corner of Precision Toolworks in Warren, Michigan, a shop that's outlasted 3 recessions by refusing the digital siren song. Its gray paint chips reveal meonite scars from 60,000 hours of diamond wheel fury, yet dial indicators across its table still kissed 0 with no coaxing. Owner Ray Kowalski, 68, a third-generation toolmaker whose grandfather lost 2 fingers to a wartime Blanchard grinder, fires it up weekly for turbine blade dies that bowing subcontractors swear by. Last year, it lapped a set of Inconel form tools for F-35 engine mounts. Exotic alloys so gummy it welds modern spindles into 20 micro-inch flatness across 10-inch spans without a single thermal warp. Ray's crew wheeled in a Haas TL1 grinder 2 years back. $120,000 fresh from California, promising lights-out automation. 6 months later, its THK linear rails those vaunted cross-stroller affairs spitted from abrasive coolant infiltration. Chattering harmonics that turned aluminum blocks into washboards. Service techs blamed user error, then vanished after the warranty check bounced. Now it gathers dust, cannibalized for servos, while the Boyer Schultz table floats serene under the same oil flood. Ray's not alone in this quiet rebellion. Across the Rust Belt, these machines anchor underground economies of perfection. In a Dayton basement shop, one churns out stamping dies for electric vehicle battery trays, precision so tight that lithium cells slot without gapping, averting fire risks that plagued Tesla's early gigafactory runs. The operator, Maria Esposito, daughter of a Sicilian riveter who built Liberty ships, dresses the wheel by hand each dawn, her calluses mapping oil pocket where like a Braille love letter. She scoffs at Okuma Asari's grinders, her peers chased last spring. A competitor's machine grenaded its polymer belt drive, Midranon hardened to steel, spraying composite shards that etched nearby VMCs beyond repair. The root, those lightweight housings cast from perlitic irons spiked with cheap nodules flexed on their torque, piping spindle flutters straight through recirculating bearings to scar the part. No mass to quench it, no inertia to steady the cut. Esposito's Boyar holds the line, its 2,000-pound bed shrugging off down feeds that would accordion a modern frame. This endurance traces back to the Korean War surge, when Boyar-Schultz cranked dozens for outfits like Rockwell, punching 155mm howitzer dies. One unit lugged in company ledgers as surviving in 1953 shop fire flames, licking its ways at 1,200 degrees, cooled enough to resume lapping recoilless rifle breech blocks by week's end, its oil galleries self-purging grit baked into glass. Factories raced to arm MacArthur's forgotten war, where a misaligned shell casing meant artillery silent on Heartbreak Ridge. Fast forward to Apollo's moon. NASA contractors in Huntsville relied on siblings to these grinders for Saturn V. Fuel pump dies, surfaces so dead flat that cryogenic seals held vacuum without weeping helium. No computers then? Just the iron's unerring physics defying thermal gradients from liquid oxygen chills. Contrast that with today's fragility parade. The 2019 Boeing 737 MAX woes stemmed partly from Jig Tool's ground-wavy robodrills, their aluminum bases ballooning under shop AC swings, forcing shims that cascaded into assembly tolerances slipping microns. Or peer into agriculture, New Holland's $300,000 balers, crippled by CAN bus glitches from dust ingress, leave fields rotting while farmers pray for firmware patches. These aren't anomalies, they're engineered surrender. Corporate spreadsheets decrease sub-1,000-pound machines for air freight efficiency, slashing meonite pores for recycled scrap that fatigues at half the cycles. Linear rails, those maintenance-free wonders with nylon cages and greased for light balls, shed particles after 5,000 hours, embedding in finishes like sand in a bearing race. Software layers, the insult. Proprietary GUIs demand cloud logins, bricking the spindle if subscriptions lapse. Bland helplessness, masked as Industry 4.0. Safety regs compound the farce, mandating plexiguards that fog with condensate, hiding how thin walls telegraph every wheel dress to the gauge blocks. Yet whispers of revival stir. In Rockford's Tooling Museum, visitors, mostly ex-machinists, stroke the restored 1948 model like a war relic, its scraped ways gleaming under. Young apprentices Zoom school through lockdowns, beg for way-scraping demos, feeling the Babbitt bite into iron for the first time. One kid from Milwaukee, fresh from community college CNC, clocked 50 hours on it last summer, emerging hooked, feels alive, not app-dependent. Boutique outfits like those crafting medical implants for pacemakers ship parts ground on survivors. Dodging FDA recalls that plague laser-etched alternatives prone to subsurface cracks from vibration-induced recast layers. Deeper still, the human ledger unfolds in faded shop logs. Operators like Eddie Scraps Malone, who manned a 6x12 through Vietnam draft, endured not just the grind but the grindstone itself, wheels glazing from poor dressing, demanding elbow grease to expose fresh grains amid sparks that singed arm hairs. Shift foremen chained cigarettes to the splash tray, inhaling chrome oxide particulates that silvered their lungs by 55, coughing black phlegm into 5-gallon buckets. Women entered the fray post-war, like the Rosies reborn, heaving 100-pound magnetic chucks solo after male turnover, their smaller frames wrenching handwheels till rotator cuffs tore. Deaf aids became norm, custom ear cornets amplifying wheel hum over radio static, turning tinnitus into a sixth sense for impending bind. These tolls forged loyalty unbreakable. Shops formed cults around their bowyers, trading bearings sourced from Hoover vacuum, teardowns, or spindle shafts lathed from locomotive axles. When recessions hit, they mothballed CNCs first, shrouding the old iron in cosmoline like family heirlooms. Today, eBay auctions pit retirees against flippers, serial numbers fetching $15,000, restore AAA used Bridgeport. The irony bites. We're resurrecting what we scrapped for progress, chasing mirror finishes amid 3D printed prototypes that warp on FDM beds. As these relics claim their final laps, they indict our era's hollow velocity gadgets that sprint to obsolescence, while true craft endures the marathon. In the shadow of Detroit's shuttered giants, a 1955 Boyer Schultz 6x12 anchors Kowalski's shop, its magnetic chuck scarred from clamping titanium foggings for Black Hawk helicopter rotors. Ray's son, Tommy, 32, bypassed trade school for a software engineering degree, only to return after coding glitches, idled his startup's prototype grinders FANUC controllers, freezing mid-program on a simple wheel dress, demanding $8,000 factory resets shipped from Japan. Now Tommy dresses the Boyar by ear, the wheel's keen edge singing true as it laps hydraulic spool valves for F2 to actuators. Surfaces so optically flat that laser interferometers register no deviation across 12 inches. Last month, it outpaced a brand-new Walter Up, whose carbon fiber reinforced frame touted for 50% weight savings flexed under preload, etching helical chatter lines into carbide inserts that scrapped a $50,000 production run. Tommy mutters about ghosts in the machine as he tops off the whey oil, a ritual his father taught amid the Hossie's dusty corpse. Further west, in a Tulsa shed Tondero shop, another survivor powers Patriot missile Operator Javier Reis, whose father dodged Castro's Cuba, clutching a machinist's Bible, feeds it depleted uranium blanks density, defying modern spindles that overheat and seize on lesser metals. The Boyars, Millionths, Quill Housing, bored true in 1951, shrugs off the Uran's 19 gram per cubic centimeter heft, bearings preloaded to conquer radio loads that would pulverize today's hybrid ceramic races. Javier's logs detail a 2018 showdown. Raytheon's local Kumar grinder, fresh with vibration-suppressing mechatronic mounts, warped a batch of seeker head dies when shop vibrations from a nearby press synced with its 60 Hz resonance, frequencies piercing the feeble damping like nails through foil. Its mass decoupled the harmonics outright, delivering parts that passed Milles TD810 shake tests without rework. Ruiz sources oil from the same Pennsylvania refinery his dad swore by, filtering it through coffee strainers to mimic the original hydrostatic purity. These holdouts ripple into realms undreamt by their makers. A Silicon Valley microfab outfits, one for photonics-lapping sapphire substrates for quantum computing chips, where a Millionths bow scatters qubits into the operator, Dr. Lena Voss, Ph.D. in materials science, traded femtosecond lasers for the iron after her. Trumpf grinders, epoxy-grouted base cracked under cryogenic coolant cycles, fracturing wafers worth her salary. Voss measures success in helium leak rates 0 on Boyar ground surfaces versus 10 to 6 torr leaks from rail-guided rivals, where recirculating balls shed metallic debris. She lectures at Stanford on inertial metrology, crediting the hand-scraped ways for oil films that self-heal under shear. A hydrodynamic trick no finite element model replicates without supercomputers. Echoes resound in tragedy during the 2023 Maui wildfire rebuild. Hawaiian contractors unearthed a 1962 unit from a flooded hangar, its bed unbowed by saltwater corrosion thanks to phosphate coatings baked deeper than modern zinc flakes. It ground form tools for rebar benders, holding flatness through monsoon power surges that fried in Hoss mills. Nearby C-bus failures from EMP-like grid flickers, capacitors popping like fireworks. The Boyar, purely mechanical, hand-cranked through the storm, birthing dies that stamped hurricane clips rated for 250 m. Yet the siege intensifies. Global supply chains choke on rare earth magnets for servo upgrades, while Chinese knockoffs flood with pot metal frames that goal on first heat-up. Union shops dismantle survivors for scrap value of $2,000 a ton, ignoring $20,000 resale to die. Software overlords accelerate the call. DMG Mori's latest mandates, IoT telemetry, uploading cut data to German clouds. One Midwest user watched his grinder remotely throttled after anomalous vibration patterns, diagnosed as operator error by AI algorithms blind to oil starvation. Farmers face quinoas with KCH planters, their precision furrow openers ground wavy on lightweight Studer machines. Seed skipping rows amid canvas, brownouts from field dust. Revival flickers faintly. Apprenticeship programs in Pittsburgh resurrect scraping benches, Babbitt tools forged from dental amalgam scraps. A YouTube savant in Ohio clocks 2 million views demonstrating preload tweaks on Hoover-sourced bearings. Spawning Garage restores that lap watch crystals for custom Rolex mods. Venture capital sniffs boutique potential. A Detroit startup reverse engineers Millionths formulas, pouring 1,500-pound replicas for EV stator dies, but skimps on scraping for CNC automation, birthing hybrids that vibrate loose in 6 months. Operators' ghosts linger in yellowed Big Joe Kaljuk, who ran a fleet through TED offensive backlogs, chained smokes to the downfeed, asbestos aprons shielding skin from 1,800-degree wheel sparks that fused rings 2 fingers. His widow still oils the museum piece yearly, whispering Polish prayers over ways that outlasted her man. Postmenopausal rosies, like factory forewoman Harriet Voss, no relation muscled 300-pound dressers solo, hernias patched with butcher's twine, their grit etching efficiency records unbroken by robots. In this ledger of endurance, the Boyar-Schultz indicts not just machines, but the soul of making. We've bartered unyielding mass for ephemeral electrons, human sinew for algorithmic sleight, chasing infinite scalability on foundations of sand. Progress. It's the audacity to deem eternal obsolete, only to rediscover its necessity when megahertz mock us with millionths adrift. As the last oil pocket gleams, it whispers, true mastery defies disposability, forged in iron, that time cannot corrode.